On today's show, the LA Clippers resume their season and their biggest road trip of the season. What would be a good record, and what are we thinking about this Milwaukee game on Thursday night? Going to be talking about it all on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA and in my 20th season as a Clipper fan. I've been covering the Clippers for 5 years on my own personal YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and 3 years for Locked On Clippers. Subscribe to both channels, Dime Dropper and Locked On Clippers on YouTube. Hit the notification bell. And of course, you can listen to Locked On Clippers wherever you get your podcasts. And I write a newsletter, Locked On Clippers daily newsletter. Just go to lockedondaily.com to sign up. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Now, in this episode, we're going to be talking about the Milwaukee game tonight. We'll be talking about what I think is a good record for the Clippers on this road trip, and then the tail end of the road trip that has games that have bigger playoff implications. So let's talk about the Milwaukee game tonight, right? Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the news out of Milwaukee this morning, big news. Bobby Portis suspended for 25 games. This is their fourth leading scorer after Kyle Kuzma, who they now have, Giannis, and Dame. Well, so regardless, even if you had still had Chris Middleton there, he is their fourth guy. You know, Bobby, they love him in Milwaukee. He has been a Sixth Man of the Year candidate the last couple of years, an integral part of that championship-winning team in 2021, and he's really found a home in Milwaukee. Really found a home. Now, 25 games because he violated the league's drug policy. He thought he was taking a drug known as Tadderall. What was it? Let me take a look again. Tramadol, but he thought it was Toradol. And Toradol is an approved pain medication that he's previously used. So apparently, according to the story by Shams, he took a medication by mistake. And that's how we've ended up here. So the good news is he's not playing against the Clippers tonight. Now, when we play the Milwaukee Bucks, that means we're seeing our good old friend Glenn Rivers, my boy. Last time we saw Glenn, I went to the game. I had it on my YouTube channel. James Harden had 40 points, and Norman Powell had 33. We lit him up. Kawhi had a nice 18-point night. It was one of our most satisfying offensive performances of the season. So this is going to be a fun game. You know, the Milwaukee Bucks are a good team. They're 29-24, which is not the best record in the world. They currently stand at the 5th spot of the Eastern Conference. We are the 6th spot of the Western Conference. Now, the Cavaliers, we didn't expect them necessarily to have a better record than the Bucks this season. They did not have a better record than the Bucks last season or the season before or the season before that. But the Cavaliers have shown they're just on some different sort of time this year, and they're an elite team, one of the best in the league, with a 44-10 record. The Celtics, we knew they'd be better than the Bucks. The Knicks, we thought they'd be better than the Bucks this year. The Pacers are the one who started out bad. The Bucks were in the 4th seed for a lot of the season, especially after the Orlando injuries that they've sustained for most of the season. And then now the Pacers have, gotten hot and they've taken him over, but it's a 1-game difference between the two, Milwaukee and Indiana. So, 5th, 4th. Damn, the Detroit Pistons are 6th? They're over 500? Sorry, guys. I mean, my house burned down. I've been under a rock, but especially with the East. But, what? The Detroit Pistons are in 6th place in the East? Oh, my God. Well, that changes things. We're going to talk about them on this road trip. But in terms of this game against the Milwaukee Bucks, what are the keys for me? I mean, I say we go back to where we tried to have success last time, right? Gary Trent, Damian Lillard. If they're going to willingly switch those guys on a James Harden, barbecue chicken time. Are they going to willingly switch those guys on a Kawhi Leonard? Essentially go away from Giannis. Keep him away from the play. That's what most teams want to do. Go at their other weaker defenders and then see if you can exploit Brook Lopez's old ass in drop coverage. That's the move. Either isolation against them, put Lopez in drop coverage, and try to, what are we going to do about Giannis? Are we going to have that same strategy of having Zoo on Giannis and then putting, somebody else on Lopez? I guess it would be like Kawhi on Brook Lopez. So then we can switch to pick and roll. So when Dame and Brook Lopez run that pick and pop, we can just switch it. Chris Dunn can switch onto Brook, which is a mismatch though. But let's see if they can take advantage of it. Or you could go with Derrick Jones Jr. guarding. Well, I think Derrick Jones will. That'll be an interesting thing. Who starts tonight? I honestly would try to go with Derrick, because when Dame and Brook Lopez run that pick and pop, we could just switch Derrick Jones Jr. onto Brook Lopez and then have Kawhi, if he's guarding Brook, switch on a Dame, and then you still have Zoo guarding Giannis. Because the whole thing with Zoo guarding Giannis is that Giannis is going to beat you with strength more so than he's going to beat you with speed. His advantage against Zoo is speed, but you want to give him room to shoot. And I know he's allegedly improved his mid-range tremendously this year. So we're going to have to, see it to believe it. But as far as, stats on the Milwaukee Bucks, they're the second highest three-point shooting team in the league in terms of percentage, 39%, which is really strong. So we just got to make sure we kind of limit their open threes. But when people talk about like three-point defense, there's two aspects to it. One, running guys off the line on closeouts, try to, prevent them from shooting threes, but that could get them a layup. And then the most obvious one and the basic thing is if you stay in front of the ball and you prevent two on the ball, then guys are not going to be open, right? So the main thing you got to do, and this is where we're the second best team in the league after the Thunder, staying in front of the ball, having a solid point of attack defense. We do have a rim protector that cleans things up, but our point of attack defense is strong. You know what I mean? Our point of attack defense is very strong. Second highest defensive rating in the league. Now, when we look at the Milwaukee Bucks, we look at how are they second in three-point percentage? Like, who do they have that's shooting that great from three? Well, we look at their percentage. Kevin Poe, I forgot. We're going to see KPJ. Damn, he's shooting 50% from three in his 2 games as a Buck. In his 2 games as a Buck, he's averaging 6.5 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists. So a little bit of everything, which is kind of what he was doing for us. But that'll be interesting to see KPJ tonight. Taurean Prince is shooting 46% from three. Wow. Gary Trent Jr. is shooting 43% from three. AJ Green, 43% from three. Middleton was shooting 41%. And then you've got Andre Jackson Jr. shooting 39, Dame 38, Brook Lopez 37, Bobby Portis 36. So literally everyone outside of Pat Connaughton, and then Kuzma's been shooting 22% since he got there. And then Giannis, 19%. So while the 2-point percentage is off the charts for Giannis, by far the highest in the team outside of Tyler Smith, who's only played 15 games, Giannis is shooting 62% from two. So, I mean, we know he's the guy. He's having a hell of a season. He's averaging 32 points a game and 12 rebounds. I feel like we've become kind of numb to this guy in terms of the stats that he puts up on a yearly basis. And it's because he works so hard. But it's always, you want to limit Giannis. But they're three-point shooters. Dame is averaging 26 points a game this year. So it looks like he's having a little bit of a bounce-back season, because I know that first year in Milwaukee, it wasn't too great. 24 points a game. His shooting splits were, really down. But this year, they're up again. He's averaging more minutes. He's averaging more shot attempts. He's averaging more shots made, higher field goal percentage, higher three-point percentage, higher free throw percentage, higher assists, higher rebounds. He's literally, and points. He's literally just having a better season in every category, Damian Lillard. So, this ain't an easy team. I think that strategy that I talked about is the move. Having Kawhi Leonard on Brook Lopez, Zoo on Giannis, switch that pick and roll, try to give him as little advantages as possible. And then we see where the chips fall. Hopefully Zoo can, hold his own with Giannis, force him to beat us from the outside. And then defensively, this Milwaukee Bucks team, when we look at the advanced stats, they are 11th in defensive rating. So they're not bad, honestly. They're pretty middle of the pack for both. For offensive rating, they are 13th. So they're very, top half, but like barely top half in both categories. So it should be an interesting game. We had the better of them the first time. I think the key is to obviously limit their open threes and then have James Harden and Kawhi mismatch hunt, keep Giannis away from the play, and then we go from there and see what kind of looks we can get. So I think this will be one of the tougher games. I think this will be one of the tougher games that we have, in this road trip, on this road trip. But it's a great start. It's not technically it's not a start because we played against the Utah Jazz, but it's kind of feels like the start since we had the All-Star break. So it'll be a tough one. It'll be a good one. Coming up, though, going to be looking at the road trip in full. So let's talk about that coming up. I got to tell you a little something about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so talking about the Clippers and this current road trip that we are on. So we got the Milwaukee Bucks tonight. That's the first game of the road trip. Honestly, I'm feeling good. I'm gonna go with we get a win tonight. As far as the other games, well, let's take a look at it. We've got the Indiana Pacers next after this one. Right. That's on Sunday. We get 2 days rest. The question is, since we have Detroit the next day, which game do we play Kawhi on? That's my question. I honestly think Detroit's no guarantee anymore. So I say we go with Indiana. And honestly, God, I don't know. Indiana's playing good basketball right now, and their pace is just a problem for our transition defense. I'm going to say we lose that game and then find a way to win against Detroit even without Kawhi. I think a split is ideal. We want a split. At Chicago, I think we're going to win that 3-1. We played 2 games at the Lakers. I would love for us to win both, but let's just say we split those. So, and then we have at Phoenix, and we lost to them in Phoenix a couple weeks ago. So, all things considered, let's just say I'm making a prediction. We beat the Bucks. We beat the Pacers. We lose to the Pacers. We beat the Pistons. We beat the Bulls. That would make us 3-1 on the East Coast side of things. Then we come back for that tail end. Lakers, Suns. And remember, we already beat the Jazz, so we'd be 4-1 at that point of the trip, according to my standings. And then we lose one of the Lakers, beat them once, 5-2. Just to keep it realistic, I'll say we lose to the Suns and 5-3. 5-3 on the 8-game road trip. And then we come back to 3 straight home games. I honestly think that'd be really good. But I don't want to lose to Phoenix. I didn't like that part of my prediction because I don't want to lose to Phoenix. I can't stand them. But anyway, so yeah, looking at the road trip, this is make or break for us in a way. We've got some good opponents here. The Detroit Pistons are young and athletic and have been playing really good basketball. They have the likes of Cade, Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey, Asar Thompson. They're not a slouch by any means anymore. They are not a laughingstock anymore. So, but I forgot about the Jaden Ivey injury. He was playing great basketball, and then he had that injury, and he's been in a boot. And is he even going to come back this year? I doubt it. But anyway, you're going to be dealing with a steady dose of guys like Cade, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson. They're young, you know what I mean? So that'll be an interesting game. But we got to get a split out of those games, out of the Indiana-Detroit game. I think this game tonight's actually fairly big, just because now we're at the point where like these games actually matter. We can start looking at the standings now. It's post All-Star break. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty. We got 28 games left. And the Lakers lost, by the way. That was a fun game to watch last night. I did a whole breakdown on my YouTube channel, Dime Dropper. But we are now 1.5 games behind the Lakers. So it ain't out of reach. It ain't out of reach. And we got 2 games against them, but I'll talk about that more in the next segment. But these East Coast games are going to be big. I think that Bulls game is massive, massive because, you know, they're finally like tanking. They're in the 10th spot and they're way behind Miami. I think if the Philadelphia 76ers, the East is so bad, and I called this before the season, that there's some teams in the East that are just not competitive. Now, has Brandon Ingram played a game for the I guess not. No, he hasn't played a game yet for the Raptors. I feel like the Raptors could try to make a push with Ingram, but realistically, the Philadelphia 76ers, even though they're having the most disastrous season imaginable and they've lost 5 straight games and are 3-7 in their last 10, they could overtake the Bulls and are only 1 game back in the loss column. So all is not lost for the 76ers to get the 10th seed and then roll the dice with their 3 stars in the playoffs and see what they can, or the play-in, and see what they can do. But I think that's the move if you're the Sixers. The Sixers having the same record as the Nets after the All-Star break. Who would have ever put money on that before the season? But anyway, my point is that the Chicago Bulls are there for the taking. They traded Zach LaVine. We got to beat them. That's a must-win game as far as I'm concerned. Must-win game. So the Indiana and Detroit and Milwaukee, these 3 games, they're going to be interesting. And I hope we don't get a little 3-game losing skid. That's what I'm most afraid of. But again, it comes down to what I said last episode. It's all about Kawhi. These last 28 games, we're hoping to get Kawhi to play at least 20 of them. Let's really gauge where he's at. Tonight, what's going to be happening in terms of starting matchups? I assume Kyle Kuzma will be guarding Kawhi Leonard. I assume, let's see what the Milwaukee Bucks starting lineup was in their win against Minnesota, because that's a good win in Minnesota before the All-Star break. Okay. They did it without Giannis and Dame? Oh, my God. And only Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo missed the game for the Wolves. That's a horrible loss. Oh, my God. Kyle Kuzma had 19 points. Okay, so I think these guys are going to be back. So let's say they have Giannis, Dame, Brook Lopez, Kyle Kuzma, and has Taurean Prince been their starter this season? Yeah, 46 games he started. Okay. It's a pretty big team, honestly, outside of Dame. So you're going to have Brook Lopez guarding Zoo. You're going to have, Giannis could guard Kawhi. I think they might put Kuzma on him, though, to have Giannis in help. Giannis will guard Derek Jones or Chris Dunn, whoever it is. If Chris Dunn is starting, there's an option for Dame to guard him, because then Dame doesn't have to work hard defensively. But if it is Derek Jones, I think Giannis will guard him. And then you have Prince guarding Harden. Yeah, Prince guarding Harden. And then Dame guarding Norm. That's the mismatch, I guess. Dame guarding Norm. Put Norm in the action, see if we can get pick and pops, get Dame to switch on a Harden. I want to just, honestly, we should just relentlessly attack Damian Lillard tonight. Like, just relentlessly. The same way Harden did with Gary Trent. Like, we're going to just do that with Dame to start the game. Like, we should just do it all game long. But, yeah, my takeaway there is the record I'm going with is 5-3. If we can, look, to me, it's this. If we come out with an over 500 record, it's a great trip. 4-4, it's an okay trip. I think we can go 5-3 on it. I really can. Less than 500, disappointing trip. But, yeah, we're 1-0 right now. So, coming up, let's talk about the tail end of the road trip. How big are those 3 games against the Lakers and the Suns? Going to be talking about that coming up. All right. So the Clippers on their probably the most crucial stretch of the season, if I'm being honest. 8-game roadie, ladies and gentlemen. Utah was where it began right before the All-Star break, got that win. at Milwaukee, at Indiana, at Detroit, at Chicago before returning home for 2 games at our former home for 25 years, Staples Center, and then the Phoenix Suns. 2 of those 3 games will be nationally televised. That Sunday, March 2nd game against the Lakers is probably the first non-nationally televised Laker Clipper. Actually, no, I think last year we might have had some non-nationally televised Laker Clipper games. But those games are going to be massive considering where we are in the standings relative to the Lakers. In terms of the Suns, they've had so many conversations going on. It's like all over the place there. Bradley Beal got benched. What's the deal with the team? They can't trade him. They're looking to trade him. What's his attitude been on that? KD's being asked questions about his future. Are they going to rebuild? They don't have any picks to rebuild. They know it's not going to work out. It's so weird. They're 26-28, and they're going to definitely make a push to try to make this playoffs and play in. The unfortunate news came out today that Victor Wembanyama is going to miss the rest of the season. That sucks because, he's having an amazing season, and he's a generational prospect, and he's looking like, with the progression he's made from year 1 to year 2, he's going to be a problem for years to come. But especially after the Spurs traded for De'Aaron Fox, looks like they're not going to be making that push. The Blazers being only 9 games under 500 is very curious because maybe they can help us tonight, especially with Luka resting. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They lost 3 games in a row. So does that mean they were 6-1 in their last 7 games before that? I guess so. That's pretty impressive. That means they're progressing a little bit. So Utah and New Orleans are like clearly the worst 2 teams in the West. If I sound shocked reading this, it's because I haven't looked at the standings in like over a month. So like I'm doing this in live time. But the Suns are going to try to make a push. So every game's going to matter for them, especially with KD. I mean, he doesn't have that many years left. Although who knows with that guy? He doesn't even slow down. We talk so much about LeBron's longevity. We don't talk enough about Kevin Durant's longevity. And it's funny because KD has inflicted so much more pain to the Clippers than like Kobe or LeBron or like any of those guys. And I don't put KD in that class. I put him in the tier right below. But he's the only player besides Boris Diaw, who, by the way, I'm watching this Court of Gold. By the way, it's actually a really good watch to watch Court of Gold because Bogdan Bogdanovic has a huge role in it. And it's cool to see like a Clipper getting that love, and he's a new Clipper, so we get to know his personality a little bit more. But what's cool about that Court of Gold, they don't talk about the Kawhi thing at all, which I found a little not surprising, to be honest. But what's cool about it is that, well, actually, no, it's a cool show, but one thing that was not cool about it, actually, was seeing Boris Diaw. That gave me PTSD. He's the only Clipper besides KD to beat us in the playoffs 3 times. And Diaw did it on 3 separate teams. Actually, so did Kevin. Phoenix, Golden State, and OKC. And then this guy was San Antonio, Utah, and Phoenix. We lost to fat Boris Diaw and skinny Boris Diaw. But anyway, as far as those games, it's going to be huge. I think the Suns game would be a really nice one for us to win, but the Laker games are going to be massive. Not because we're playing against Luka as a Laker, because they're right next to us in the standings. Right next to us. And the Lakers had a good opportunity to get closer to the Houston Rockets, and they blew that last night against the Hornets. And look, like, home court advantage matters. Let nobody tell you that it doesn't. Because last year we had home court advantage, but we didn't have Kawhi Leonard. I mean, health of your best players matters more than home court. But 2023, we didn't have home court, lost. 2021, that Game 7 being at our house. I know we lost every home game before that, but that Game 7 on that Sunday afternoon against Luka Doncic and the Mavs being at our house was huge. I don't think we beat the Spurs in 2015 without Game 7 being at our house. I don't think we beat the Warriors in 2014 with Game 7 being at Oracle. I definitely don't. We won because that was at home, and I was at those games. So it matters. Lakers are going to try to go for home court. They blew a good chance. And one thing I noticed about them is their defense. I mean, Luka is that weak link. Luka is that weak link. And I think James Harden should absolutely try to do what he did in Game 4 last year of the playoffs, attack Luka Doncic and pick and roll, and get the better of him when we play them. And we got to really lean into Zubats. They're going to go small. We got to try to mismatch hunt and generate open threes that way. But those are going to be really interesting matchups. I wonder if I will have a chance to preview them before. I might not, because we're going to get into this road trip. It's going to be game breakdowns and stuff. And I also really want to do my episode on why our attendance has been the lowest in the league. I have a lot to say about that. And that's a very, very hot topic amongst Clipper fans this season. So we definitely want to talk about that. But those games against the Lakers are going to be massive. That's my point of this road trip, is those games are going to be massive. And it's not because they're the Lakers and we want to do this and that and Battle of LA. It's because of the standings. You know what I'm saying? And of course, with the Luka aspect, it's going to add more to it. But I had so much to say about the Lakers last night, and this is not Locked On Lakers. So if you want to go to check out the Kamenetsky bros, check them out, hear about them. But I'm going to just say this. JJ wants to play small ball. They want to do 5 out, and they killed us with it last time. But Luka is a defender that's a weak link. When we played them the other night at Intuit Dome a couple weeks ago, their defense was really good that night because we're not attacking that many weak defenders. You know, it's not like they're playing Dalton Connect a ton. Luka, especially right now. And they're also very take-turnsy offensively. I mean, it's not the greatest fit in the world, Luka and LeBron. It's going to take time for it to be good, and it's going to be good. But it's just, I don't know. That's probably my cue. So you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. And Locked On Clippers is free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you hit the notification bell. We are looking to get to 7,000 subscribers. So let's get there before the season ends. And yeah, Milwaukee tonight. Let's see how we begin the road trip. Glenn Rivers, you better get this win, or I'm going to be on your ass tomorrow for the Friday show. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.